Just in time as always. Settle in, tuck that blanket up just so, and listen closely. Tonight's story is a slightly spooky one, but don't worry, I'll stay with you till the end. The sun dipped low over Graymore, painting the sky in bruised shades of purple and gold. At the edge of town, where neat lawns gave way to tangled underbrush, for friends lingered beneath the gnarled arch of oaks that marked the entrance to the Whispering Woods. Emma Clark, 14 and headstrong, tucked a strand of chestnut hair behind her ear as she examined the forest's looming silhouette. "This is it," she declared, voice tight with excitement. "They say if you stand here at dusk, you'll hear your name whispered back." Jason Park, 13 and skeptical, rolled his dark eyes. "Fairy tales. People hear wind through the leaves, that's all." He hefted a flashlight in one hand and tapped the tip against his palm. Mia and Leo Rivera, twins aged 12, exchanged glances. Mia's fingers toyed with the straps of her backpack. Leo cracked his knuckles, as if he could summon courage that way. "We should bring something to record," Mia suggested quietly. "Maybe if it's just the wind, we can prove it." Leo shrugged. "Or prove we're idiots." He offered a shaky grin that Emma returned with a nudge. They'd heard the rumors all summer. Kids whispered about lost hikers drawn in by their own names. Others claimed to have seen shapes slip between the trees. And every year a new graffiti appeared on the old oak. "Come closer." Their parents thought they were spending the evening at the community center's barbecue. Perfect cover. But the four friends had made a pact. At precisely dusk, they would step beneath those branches and see if the Whispering Woods lived up to its name. Standing at the threshold, the air turned cool and musty. Insects buzzed and the occasional crow cawed from deep within. Emma checked her phone. 7:12 p.m. Just 8 minutes to sunset. She motioned them forward. "This way," she whispered. The path was only a deer track, narrow and overgrown. Brambles nicked their legs as they pressed through, flashlights off to avoid startling whatever lurked ahead. The forest around them felt alive. Branches creaked, leaves rustled, though no breeze stirred. "Your name," Jason murmured, sounding suddenly serious. "What if it's not wind?" Mia swallowed. "I don't know." She lifted her phone's voice memo app. "I just want to hear it once." At the heart of the woods, an old stone clearing emerged, moss-covered slabs arranged in a half circle. In the center lay cracked tiles, as at the edge of something broken. They stopped, breathless. Leo crept forward and knelt. "Looks old, like someone built a stage." He traced the outline of a circular pattern carved into the stone, now faded. Maybe they held gatherings here. Emma shone her light across the clearing. "Come on, let's stand in the middle." She held out her hand. One by one, they joined her on the cracked tiles. Silence swallowed them. Seconds ticked by. Then, softly, so softly at first, they heard it. "Ain't my." Emma's heart lurched. "Did you hear that?" "Must be the wind," Jason whispered, though his face had gone pale. "Again, Mia?" Mia's eyes widened. She held up the phone. Recording. A third voice, faint but unmistakable. "Leo?" Leo took a stumbling step back. "No way." Jason swallowed. "You guys are messing with us, right?" Emma took a deep breath. "I didn't say anything." She raised her voice. "My name's Emma." In the hush that followed, their own echoes answered. Emma, closer now, as though someone stood just outside the circle's edge. "Step out," Jason said, voice cracking. "Step out and turn on the lights." Emma flicked on her flashlight. Beams of white light swept the tree line, revealing nothing but thick trunks and tangled vines. Yet around them, the air thrummed with energy that made their skin prickle. Suddenly, Mia pointed. Over there, by the fallen log at the circle's perimeter, a silhouette slipped between the trees, tall, thin, limbs bending at odd angles. They called out, but it vanished before their eyes. Leo grabbed Emma's arm. "We should go." But Emma's curiosity held her rooted. "No, wait. We need to find out what it is." Jason exchanged a look with Mia. "All right, 10 more minutes. Then we head back." They crept toward the log, flashlights bobbing across the forest floor. Every crackle of dry leaves sounded like footsteps. Every flutter of wings sounded like a warning. At the log, Emma knelt and ran her fingers along a jagged mark gouged into bark. 5 deep notches. Beneath them, etched in chip paint, were letters. L-O-S-T. Lost question mark? Mia read aloud, like someone marking lost souls. Emma frowned, or warning us we'll get lost. Jason's light swept upward. There, carved high into the trunk, was another message. Your voice brings U.S. near. A cold breeze curled around them, though the air had been still. The words on the tree pulsed as if alive, and the forest seemed to lean in. Without warning, the ground shuddered. A branch snapped overhead. The friends screamed and ducked, flashlight beams swirling in panic. Then silence crashed back, as though the forest exhaled. They scrambled back to the stone circle. Emma's voice shook. This is real. Jason swallowed hard. We need to record more evidence, and then get out. They huddled in the center and spoke their names in unison. The forest answered back, louder, chorus-like. Emma, Jason, Mia, Leo. Their shouts echoed off distant trunks, reverberating until the forest fell silent again. Emma turned off her flashlight. Headphones, she muttered, pulling a pair from her backpack. She pressed into her ears while Mia replayed the recording. Static crackled, then the soft, chilling whisper. Emma, followed by a low, inhuman laughter. Leo's face drained of color. We have to go, now. They sprinted back the way they came. The song of cicadas rose to a frantic pitch, and branches clawed at their clothes. When they burst from the tree lean into fading light, none of them looked back until the forest's edge was well behind. Breaths ragged, hearts hammering. They regrouped on the grassy path toward town. Emma checked her phone. 8:03 p.m. They'd been inside for less than an hour, but it felt like an eternity. Mia stared at the screen. You got it? Emma nodded. We did. But now what? Jason looked back at the woods, now silent and unassuming. We figure out what's calling us and why. They made a pact. Tomorrow at first light, they'd return prepared. For now, they raced toward home, oblivious to the pair of pale eyes watching them from the deepest shadows of the Whispering Woods. The morning after their first venture into the Whispering Woods dawned crisp and clear, but none of the 4 friends felt rested. Emma was up before sunrise, poring over her phone recordings in the dim light of her desk lamp. The whisper, soft yet unmistakable, sent chills down her spine every time she replayed it. By 8 a.m., the group had gathered at Emma's kitchen table, strewn with maps, notebooks, and half-eaten toast. Jason, bleary-eyed and clutching a travel mug of coffee, stretched and yawned. Okay, he said, voice raspy. We admit it's real, so what's next? Mia laid out a stack of photocopied articles she'd scrounged up from the town library. I found references to this clearing as far back as 1932. Folks called it the Echo Ring. There was an incident in 1977. 2 siblings wandered off and never returned. Search parties found their bikes at the edge of the forest, but the kids were gone. She traced a red circle on the map. Their names were Ruth and Alan Harper. Leo frowned. Any idea what happened to them? Mia shook her head. Nothing conclusive. Some say they ran away. Others whisper something darker. Emma tapped her pen. Let's prepare properly. Last night we went in cold. No gear, no plan. This time, we bring walkie-talkies, extra batteries, first aid kits, flashlights plus lanterns. She ticked items off on a pad. Noise makers, too. If something tries to grab us, we can scare it off. Jason grinned. Got it. And I'll bring pepper spray just in case. They divided responsibilities. Mia would bring research materials, Emma the recording equipment, Jason survival gear, and Leo snacks and water. By midday, they met again at Leo's garage, where he'd stashed old backpacks for spare supplies. Safety first, Jason said, fastening a whistle around his neck. No heroics. If anyone feels uneasy, we retreat immediately. They set a turnaround time of 4 p.m. Sunset less than an hour later. They would give themselves 3 hours in the woods. At 1 p.m., they approached the forest edge once more. The sun was high, casting latticework shadows through the leaves. The mood was tense but determined. None spoke of the flicker of movement they'd glimpsed the night before. Emma led them back along the narrow deer track. Flashlights clipped to their belts. The underbrush crackled underfoot, and every so often Jason clicked his radio. Static the only response. At 1:22 p.m., they arrived at the old stone circle. Emma switched on her recorder. "We're here again at the Echo Ring," she announced, testing for whispers. They stood in a loose circle, instruments at the ready. For nearly 10 minutes, only the forest's natural sounds responded. Bird song, cicadas, and the distant trill of a woodpecker. Then, so softly it seemed part of the breeze, came a faint voice, this time calling Jason by name. "Jason." Jason's pulse quickened. He looked around, pale. "Did you hear that?" Mia lifted her headphones, eyes wide. "I got it," perfectly clear. Leo nudged Emma. "Your turn." Emma exhaled and spoke her name. Then all four, Emma, Jason, Mia, Lo. The reply was immediate and more insistent. A chorus of voices echoing through the trees, chanting each of their names in turn, circling them like dancers. They exchanged anxious glances. Jason called back, voice firm. "We mean you no harm. Show yourself." A twig snapped off to their left. Flashlights flicked on, beams sweeping over gnarled roots and mossy stones. Nothing. Mia stepped forward, shining hers deeper into the wood. Then, without warning, the whispering stopped. Silence rolled over them, thick and suffocating. In the hush, Emma noticed a recorder falter, static replacing the ambient forest noise. She shook it. The display read YRR. Jason cursed under his breath. Great. Electronics failed near the circle. They backed out of the ring, relieved to re-enter normal forest. But the path they'd taken wasn't the one before them. The deer track had disappeared, swallowed by ferns and saplings. Leo pointed ahead. "We must have slipped off the path." Mia checked her compass. "West should lead us back to the clearing, but I don't know." She glanced at the dense thicket all around. "This isn't good." They fanned out slightly, linking hands. Emma raised her voice. "Stay close. We stick together." Minutes felt like hours as they navigated fallen logs and underbrush. The forest light dimmed even though the sun was overhead. The canopy closed in, shadows deepening. At 2 p.m., a sudden scream pierced the air, Leo's voice. The others spun, calling his name. Flashlights darted toward the sound. Leo was gone. Panic roared through them. Emma dropped to her knees, heart pounding. "Leo," she cried. "Leo." Jason grabbed his radio. "Leo, respond." No answer. The thick foliage swallowed their calls. Mia swallowed, voice trembling. He was right here. Emma scrambled up and shone her light into the trees. "Leo." From the darkness came a faint, panic whisper. "Help me." They followed the sound across a shallow ravine. Jason manufactured a rope from paracord and tossed the end to Emma. She secured it around a sturdy branch, then edged down. Lights bobbed above as Mia and Jason formed a human chain to guide Emma. Below, half hidden by brambles, was Leo, shirt torn and covered in scratches, crouched beside a rotting stump. His eyes were wide as saucers. I heard my name and then I felt pulled. He rubbed a fresh welt on his arm. The trees, they moved. I swear they reached for me. Emma scrambled down and helped him up. "Are you okay?" Leo swallowed hard. "I think so." He coughed. There was something beyond the ravine, a clearing with old stones. But not the echo ring, different stones. I saw something. Mia checked his pulse. "Let's get you out of here." They retraced their steps, helping Leo across the ravine, then steered toward dappled sunlight filtering through the trees. Emma glanced at her watch. 2:47 p.m. They had just over an hour before sundown. Back at the main clearing, they stopped to rest. Leo leaned against a mossy stone slab, breathing heavily. I saw an archway of branches, like a doorway, and when I stepped through, I felt weightless, then dizzy. The next thing I knew, You were above me calling my name. Jason frowned. A doorway? Like a passage to another place. Mia shuddered. Could it be a portal? If the echo ring is just one site, maybe there are others. Emma pressed her hand to her forehead. We need to map this forest and find all the markers. She looked at Mia's photocopies. There were a count of 5 sounding stones around the woods. Maybe they're linked. Leo straightened. We can't keep wandering blind. If I hadn't been lucky, Jason checked the compass. We should head back to town and plan another trip, better prepared. We nearly lost Leo today. Emma nodded. You're right. Let's document everything. Where Leo went missing, the stones he saw, that ravine. We'll draw it on the map. They spent the next 40 minutes sketching the paths they'd taken, marking the weird clearing Leo described and listing the symptoms. Whispering names, compass malfunctions, disorientation, electronics failing. At 3:45 p.m., they packed up. Emma clicked her recorder one last time. It powered on, battery full. Final check, she said. Promise to never stop calling for help. They exited the wood in silence, each lost in thought. When they reached the clearing's edge at 3:58 p.m., just 2 minutes before their cutoff, they regrouped under bright sky. Emma exhaled. We made it. Leo managed a weak smile. Barely. Mia broke the tension. Let's get hot chocolate. Jason laughed. A short, relieved bark. Best idea all day. As they headed down the gravel road toward town, none noticed a faint ripple of movement behind in the trees. Branches parting as if to watch. And from deep within, a soft voice whispered once more, fading into the breeze. Soon. Late that afternoon, the 4 friends found themselves back at the forest edge with headlamps secured and backpacks heavy with gear. Emma carried notebooks full of Ruth and Alan Harper's notes. Mia had stacked photocopies about local legends. Jason gripped pepper spray and a small canister of salt, and Leo lugged extra rope and a first aid kit. The tension between them was nearly tangible. Each step into the whispering gloom felt like crossing a threshold into another world. They retraced the path Leo had stumbled into, cutting west of the Echo Ring, where dense ferns gave way to a narrow deer trail winding toward a hidden ravine. Overhead, the canopy closed in, light dwindling to a dim green glow. Branches overhead arched like cathedral vaults, dripping moisture onto the undergrowth. Night had fallen like a shroud over Graymoor, and a pale sliver moon hung low in the sky as Emma, Jason, Mia, and Leo gathered in Emma's garage. Lanterns flickered against the walls, illuminating backpacks bristling with gear. Chalk sticks, coarse salt, jars of spring water, extra batteries, and a Harper journal with its binding incantations marked by sticky tabs. Emma spread the hand-drawn map across a workbench. 5 ceiling circles, she whispered. 1 here at the Echo Ring, 1 at the Harper Well, 1 near Silver Pine Hollow, 1 by the old logging road, and the final at the heart of the forest, where the trees grow closest together. She traced the lines with her finger. We need to perform all 5 rituals almost simultaneously, or the entity will slip through any gap. Jason nodded, eyes sharp. We split into 2 teams of 2. Emma and I take the Echo Ring and logging road sites. Mia and Leo handle the Harper Well and Silver Pine Hollow. Then we converge on the heart. Timing is critical. Mia tapped her watch. High tide in the well site will be around 1 a.m., which will help channel the water in the ritual. Leo swallowed and squared his shoulders. Then let's get moving. We start at midnight. At precisely 12 a.m., they slipped through the garage door and into the hush of the night. Their headlamps cast narrow beams through a world muted by frost and moonlight. Emma and Jason led west toward the Echo Ring, while Mia and Leo struck off northward toward a Harper Well. Overhead, owls hooted, and every crunch of fallen leaves sounded magnified in the still darkness. Echo Ring site. Emma and Jason reached the clearing first. The stones glowed faintly under their lanterns, as if sensing the ritual's impending power. Emma knelt and began chalking the 8-segment circle around the moss-covered slabs, while Jason laid lines of salt along the rune-etched grooves. Record everything. Jason murmured into his flashlight's voice memo app. The hiss of static answered, but when Emma spoke the incantation, by heart untainted, by flame unquenched. The device captured her words. A cold wind spiraled through the circle. Branches overhead groaned. Emma's breath hitched. It's already resisting. Jason braced himself, voice low. Keep going. They worked in tandem. Chalk, salt, and water tracing the runes. With the final line drawn, Emma intoned. Reflection fades and silence reigns. Our souls return from shadowed chains. A pulse of silver light rippled across the stones, and then silence. The air seemed to soften, the forest exhaling. Behind them, Jason heard a rustle. He spun, flashlight swinging, but saw only swaying ferns. Emma exhaled, voice shaking. Done. Harperwell site. Meanwhile, Mia and Leo approached the sunken clearing that hid the old well. The broken cover lay half-submerged in ooze, and the stones ringed it like drawn teeth. Leo shined his light into the oily water. Ripples broke the surface even though no breeze stirred. Mia dipped her fingers into a jar of spring water and sprinkled it into the first chalk segment. Water to bind, she whispered, voice quivering. Leo laid granular salt along the outer edge. Ready? Mia asked. Leo nodded. Together, they spoke the Harper binding. By silent stone and whispered vow, return the lost from shadow's prow. The water in the well sloshed violently, sending ink-dark ripples across the surface. From the depths came a chorus of tortured cries, faint voices of the Harper siblings pleading for release. Leo's grip on the jar slipped, water splashing over his boots. Hold on, Mia yelled, catching the jar. She pressed on. Let water still and earth be bound. Let sacred seal this darkness round. Lightning-sharp sound cracked overhead as the well's depths went still. A shimmering shimmer raced outward from the water, snuffing the cries. The circle glowed briefly, then blinked out. Leo exhaled shakily. It sealed. Mia wiped sweat from her brow. Let's go. Progress to Silver Pine Hollow. Teams reported success over their radios. Emma, echo ring sealed. Jason, recording intact. Mia, Harperwell done. Leo, circle stable, moving to Silver Pine. Emma clicked her radio off and vaulted to her feet. Jason, let's hurry. We hit the logging road site and then raced to the heart. They slipped back into the trees, flashlights bobbing. Mia and Leo retraced the path to Silver Pine Hollow, where ancient pines stood sentinel around a flattened clearing. Snow lay scattered in shadows beneath the branches. In the center, a faint rune was carved into a stone plinth, half buried under needles. Leo dug out the carving as Mia chalked a circle around it. Suddenly, the wind roared to the pines like a freight train, and the sisters' voices whispered behind the bark. Mia swallowed. Pressure. Leo laid the salt and poured water from his canteen. Mia began the binding. By hidden root in vaulted sky, we bind this name, we break its cry. The ground trembled, and icy mist drifted around their ankles. Leo shouted over the roar, "Finish it." Mia's voice rang out. From shadow's grip and hollowed bone, return the lost, let light be shown. With a final word, the mist snapped back like a rubber band, and the hollow fell silent. The circle glowed pale blue, then faded. Leo sagged against a pine. That was close. Logging road site. Emma and Jason arrived at the logging road just as headlights from a passing car briefly lit the clearing. They signaled the car away with a wave of flashlights. No need to scare anyone else. The center of the road was marked by a solitary stump, on which lay a faded carving of interlocking rings. Jason laid salt in a perfect circle around the stump, while Emma chalked runes along its rim. The air smelled of pine resin and decay. Branches scraped against each other ominously. Emma spoke the chant. By fallen limb and muted gust, we bind the bark to loyal trust. Jason added the closing verse. From twisting path and haunted sigh, we banish fear, its claims deny. The stump rattled as though shaken by invisible hands. Emma's lantern clattered, and the chalk circle glowed. Then, with a snap, the trembling ceased. The stump sat inert, etched runes faintly luminescent. Emma exhaled. For down, raced to the heart. All four friends converged at the central clearing, An ancient grove where the trees stood so close their branches formed a vaulted canopy. At the grove center lay a massive stone altar modeled with lichen, carved long ago with the image of a tree strangled by roots. Their radios crackled. Mia, on our way. Jason, see you there. Leo, be careful. Emma, let's finish this. They set up 4 chalk circles around the altar's base. Liam's flask of spring water passed hand to hand. The salt was divided into neat lines. Above them, the trees creaked and groaned, limbs twisting toward a clearing as though drawn by hunger. Shadows coalesced between trunks, figures half seen, faceless. A low rumble shook the ground. Panic flickered in Mia's eyes. Emma grabbed her hand, focused on the words. They knelt at their stations. Emma began the final binding. In root and bone, in bough and breath, we bind the wood, dispel its death. Jason picked up the chant. From whispering wind and silent tear, we claim the light, deny the fear. Mia's voice shimmered. By salt and chalk, by water's flow, return the peace, let darkness go. Leo added the closing line, voice steady. From forest heart to distant shore, this seal shall hold, now evermore. A roaring blast of wind burst through the canopy, snuffing lanterns and whipping hair into their faces. Roots erupted from the earth, snaking toward the circles, snapping like whipcord. Leo cried out as a root lashed his arm, cutting through his jacket. Mia screamed, dropping her jar of water as it shattered. The chanting faltered, but Emma roared above the wind, voice unwavering. From forest heart to distant shore, this seal shall hold, now evermore. At her words, the chalk circles flared bright white. The roots recoiled, sliding back into the earth. The figures in the shadows dissolved into drifting motes of light. The stone altar quaked, then settled. The canopy above stilled, and a shaft of pale moonlight pierced the branches, illuminating the grove. Silence fell, complete and profound. The friends collapsed to their knees, hearts pounding, lungs burning. Emma glowed with triumph. We did it! Jason pressed a hand to Leo's arm. You all right? Leo flexed his fingers. Thanks to you, yes. Mia closed her eyes, tears of relief sliding down her cheeks. It's over. They rose unsteadily. Around them, the grove felt alive yet at peace, as though the forest had exhaled a great burden. Together, they stepped out of the sacred circle and into the open night. The trees behind them stood silent sentinel, their branches once more motionless. According to these maps, Emma whispered, consulting a hand-drawn sketch, the Harper campsite should be just beyond this ridge. Mia shivered. The one where the kids disappeared in '77? Jason swallowed. They say the Harpers set up camp near an old well. It was supposed to be sealed long ago, like a guardian against something beneath. Leo pointed ahead. Look, there's an old tent frame. They approached a clearing littered with twisted metal poles and shredded nylon. A rusted lantern lay half buried in damp leaves, and across from it stood a circular pattern etched into the mossy ground. Stones arranged in a rough ring around a gaping hole in the earth. Beneath the shallows of that hole lay a broken wooden cover, rotted through. Emma knelt and ran her fingers over the carved stones. Faded chalk marks traced a circle, divided into 8 segments, each bearing a rune that matched symbols in the Harper Journal. This is it, the sealing circle. Mia's flashlight beam danced inside the well where dark water pooled. She swallowed hard. If the legends are true, this well was a prison, a seal to keep something from escaping. Jason flicked on his headlamp and shone it into the water. He recoiled. There's something in there. They gathered at the edge. The water was oily black, reflecting none of their lights. Then, faint ripples broke the surface, as though something just shifted beneath. Leo's voice trembled. Guys, do you hear that? A low moan echoed from the well. Soft at first, then growing into a chorus of hissing voices. Each whisper rose distinct. Alex? No. Emma, Jason, Leo. They sounded distant yet right inside their heads. Emma pressed her palms to her ears. Shut it off. Mia grabbed a tin of salt from Jason's belt. Maybe if we restore the seal, She knelt and began stroking a line of salt along the broken chalk symbol. The others helped, sprinkling salt into every crack. With each added pinch, the voices wavered, stuttering as if caught in a glitch. Jason poured water from his canteen into the chalk groove, activating the runes. A soft glow pulsed along the stones. The moaning receded into a single, forlorn cry. Then silence. They exhaled in unison. Even the drip of water seemed muted. Emma allowed herself a shaky grin. We did something. For a moment, the forest held its breath. Then cracked. The ground trembled. A jagged fissure opened at the circle's edge, splitting earth and stone. From the chasm rose a column of inky mist, swirling outward in serpentine coils. Branches overhead snapped like whips. Mia screamed, "It's not over." The mist billowed, congealing into a humanoid shape, tall, gaunt, eyes glowing with ancient hunger. Its limbs stretched and jerked as though mocking human form. The ceiling circle glowed bright, but the creature reached out, passing to the salt barrier as if it were nothing. "Run," Jason shouted. He grabbed Leo's arm, but Leo froze, eyes locked on the apparition. Emma shook me out. "We finished the ritual now." Pulling a scrap of chalk from her pocket, Emma crouched and redrew the outer barrier, chanting from the Harper Journal. "By silent stone and whispered vow, return the lost from shadow's prow." Mia joined in, voice trembling. "Let water still and earth be bound. Let sacred seal this darkness round." Each word dripped with power. The mist form recoiled, its shape flickering, but it warred against the words, writhing like smoke caught in a gale. Its mouth opened wide in a silent scream that rattled their teeth. The earth heaved, and tree trunks around them groaned, roots thrust upward, lashing at their legs. Mia yanked Emma back just as a root cracked the air where Emma had knelt. Jason fought off another root with his pepper spray, tears streaming from his eyes as the fumes mixed with sweat. "Keep going," Emma cried, voice hoarse. She resumed the chant, forcing her lips around each syllable. The creature's form shuddered, and the ceiling circle's glow brightened. The hissing voices rose into a crescendo, then silence. With a final crack like breaking glass, the mist dissipated, sucked downward into the well's yawning mouth. The earth sealed itself in a heartbeat, covering the circle with fresh soil and moss. Branches snapped back into place, and the forest exhaled a calm sigh. Mia sank to her knees, panting. "Is it over?" Leo staggered forward, tears in his eyes. I thought I'd die." Jason checked his phone, battery full. No glitches, no whispers. Emma rose unsteadily, brushing dirt from her jeans. "We restored the seal, at least for now." She stared into the silent well. "But that thing, it was hungry." They gathered around, shoulders slumped but relieved. The forest felt still, almost peaceful. After a moment, Leo spoke, voice trembling with awe. "We actually did it." Mia nodded, wiping tears. "We broke the curse." Emma closed her journal. "Let's mark the spot on the map and head back before sunset. But we need to document exactly what happened. Every rune, every word." Jason agreed. "And next time we bring more supplies. Better salt. Maybe chalk of a purer grade. We can't risk a partial seal." They spent the next half hour sketching the newly buried circle, taking careful notes on the runes and their order. They cataloged the creature's appearance, its reactions to salt and chant. As the sun dipped low, golden light filtered through the trees, and they made their way back to the main trail. On the path out, Emma paused and picked up a stray pebble. Imprinted on it was a tiny rune matching the broken seal. She slipped it into her pocket. "Just in case," she murmured. They emerged from the whispering woods at 6:45 p.m., an hour before sundown. None looked back into the darkening tree line. The distant echo of a crow's call followed them to the edge of town. Later, at Emma's kitchen table, they pored over their notes. The total words in Emma's notebook had swelled by 2,000, sketches, incantations, and warnings. They realized the woods contained multiple sealing sites, at least 5, and that each required its own ritual. Leo rubbed his temples. "We can't keep doing this forever." Mia looked at Emma. "But we saved the Harpers." We gave them peace. Jason closed his eyes. At what cost? What if there are more creatures out there? Emma tapped her pencil. Then we'll find them. Together, but we need to rest and plan properly. They agreed to meet tomorrow after dawn, prepare for Act 4, a full assault in the forest heart, confronting not just one well, but all the sounding stones in a single night. The horizon blushed pink as dawn crept over Graymore. Emma's alarm chimed at 5:30 a.m., its gentle tones at odds with her pounding heart. She slipped from bed, careful not to wake Lily, and tiptoed into the hallway. Outside, the air was crisp, faint mist curling through the lawns. Downstairs, the kitchen light glowed. Jason sat at the table, head in his hands, dark circles under his eyes. Mia stirred a mug of hot chocolate. Steam swirling in the pre-sunrise chill. Leo paced by the door, checking his watch. The four friends met in a solemn circle, exhausted, triumphant, and uneasy all at once. "Morning," Emma whispered, voice soft. "How does everyone feel?" Leo ran a hand through his hair. "Like I got run over by a truck," he admitted, "but free, I guess." He forced a grin that cracked at the edges. Mia sipped her chocolate. "I haven't dreamed at all last night." Relief washed over her features. "I actually slept." Jason tapped his fingers on the table. "My recorder has the clearest chants I've ever heard. When we played them back, you could hear the forest sigh." Emma nodded. "We did what the Harpers couldn't. We sealed the wells, the stumps, the hollows, and the heart. The forest can rest now." She attempted a smile, but her throat felt tight. They ate granola bars in silence, each lost in thought. Outside, the sky brightened, birds trilled, and a new day began oblivious of the night's horrors. "I say we honor our victory," Jason declared, standing and offering a hand to Emma. "Breakfast at Millie's Diner. Pancakes on me." "Mia!" And Leo lit up at the idea. Within 20 minutes, they were crammed into Jason's truck, headlights cutting through the final tendrils of dawn as they headed downtown. Conversation was light, jokes about nearly drowning in a well, teasing Emma about her dramatic chants. But under every laugh lay an unspoken bond forged in terror. At Millie's, they claimed a booth near the window. Steam rose from mugs of coffee and cocoa, plates of blueberry pancakes, golden stacks dripping butter, arrived, and for a moment, the world felt ordinary. They ate with gusto, savoring each sweet, syrupy bite. Emma leaned back, napkin in hand. "I almost forgot how good pancakes could taste." Leo grinned. Anything tastes good after nearly being devoured by a tree monster. Mia glanced at Emma. "Do you think this is it? Are we done?" Jason wiped syrup from his lip. "I'd like to believe so." He sounded more hopeful than he felt. They paid the bill and walked back under a sapphire sky. The town stirred. Mail carriers rattled letters. Shopkeepers flipped open their signs, and school buses groaned to life. Life beneath its normal surface. Emma paused at the edge of Willow Street, turning back to the woods that bordered town. Sunlight sparkled through the pines. Gone was the hush of midnight. Only daytime birdsong remained. She inhaled deeply. "I want to make sure." She raised her phone. "Let's check the echo ring one last time, together." Mia and Jason exchanged a glance, then nodded. Leo shrugged. "Yeah, one last check." They walked the half-mile path to the forest entrance. Their footsteps on gravel sounded loud in the tranquil morning. When they reached the arch of oaks, Jamie, the town's mailman, tipped his cap to them. "Early hikers?" Emma forced a smile. "Just checking on a community garden project," she fibbed. He nodded, unaware of another project unfolding deeper in the woods. Under the arch, flashbacks of night's terror welled up, but Emma steeled herself. They passed into the dappled light and hurried down the familiar deer track. The ground was firm, but where once was a thin carpet of leaves, now moss glowed green. At the center of the echo ring, the stones lay undisturbed. Emma knelt beside the chalk circle, tracing her fingertip along the faint white line. Every segment was complete. No cracks, no faded edges. The salt still glittered like frost. Relief swelled in her chest. "Looks perfect," Mia breathed, peering over her shoulder. Jason circled the ring, shining his light into every nook. Intact. We did good. Leo crouched by the largest stone. He pressed his ear to its cool surface. No echoes. Emma rose and turned to the others. We should check the logging road stump just in case. They retraced their steps to the logging road site, stepping across sunlit patches and fallen pine needles. At the road's edge, Emma's flashlight revealed the carved stump ring by chalk and salt, still luminous in morning light. The carved rings were crisp, unbroken. Water droplets beaded on the rim, but the salt deterred seepage. Still sealed, Jason confirmed. 2 for 2. Mia consulted her map. Next, Silver Pine Hollow, then the Harper Well. They navigated to the hollow, a cool glade ringed by towering evergreens. Beneath the pines, the rune on the stone plinth remained sharp and the chalk circle intact. No mist billowed, no voices whispered. Mia traced the rune, clean as the day we sealed it. Emma smiled briefly. One more. They reached the Harper Well clearing at 8 a.m. The broken cover lay sealed again, the salt boundary gleaming. Emma peered into the oily water. Smooth, silent, locked away. They exhaled collectively. For sights, all sealed. Daylight banished the night's terrors. Let's celebrate, Leo said, shouldering his pack. No more forest rituals. They walked back toward the town perimeter, morale high. Children with school bags marched past. Parents strolled dogs on sidewalks. The woods behind them looked benign, just a cluster of trees framing the horizon. Emma paused at the forest edge. The sun was higher now, and she squinted as if spotting something in the distance. She frowned. Wait, do you hear that? A soft thump, 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 rhythmic and distant, echoed through the trees. The others stiffened. Mia tilted her head. That sounds like footsteps. Jason frowned. In broad daylight? Leo shook his head. Impossible. They turned back toward the woods, scanning the undergrowth. Everything was still. The only sound was her own breathing and the distant hum of traffic. Emma swallowed. Could be an animal. She tried to laugh it off. A deer or something. But the sound persisted. Thump, thump, now closer, as if something large was advancing toward the clearing. The rhythm was steady and deliberate. Mia swallowed hard. Guys, what if one circle failed overnight? Jason's eyes widened. What do you mean? I don't know, she admitted. But if even one ceiling line broke. Before Emma could respond, the shadow of a massive form flitted between the trees. Too swift and low to be human. The air vibrated with an unseen presence. Emma's heart pounded. She stepped forward, flashlight raised. Show yourself. Silence, then a single breath, close enough that all four felt its warmth. A whisper in Emma's ear, raspy and soft. Not done. She froze, blood draining. The whisper slid along her skin, vanished, leaving goose flesh in its wake. Mia clutched Emma's arm. What did it say? Emma's voice trembled. Not done. In the sudden stillness, a solitary branch snapped behind them. They spun, raising flashlights. All was calm. No shape, no rustle, no echo, just a benign forest edge. Jason exhaled. We need to find which seal failed. Leo nodded, pale. It's not over. Together, they crossed back onto Willow Street, hearts heavy. The day had begun with hope, but now the promise of peace felt fragile. The Whispering Woods had not relinquished its hunger. It had merely paused. They walked the town in a tight cluster, flashcards of normal life drifting around them, mailboxes, park benches, morning joggers, while a darker presence trailed unseen behind. That's the end of tonight's tale. I hope it gave you a little chill and a lot of calm. With any luck, you're already sound asleep. Didn't even hear the ending. Did you? But if you're still awake, how about another? Sleep well, dream better, and I'll see you next time.